right, today we're going to talk about whether your Social Security check is safe going forward. There's all kinds of chaos. This has never happened in Social Security history since it started in 1935. We've never had a commissioner of Social Security threaten to shut down the agency and then the next day come back and say, oh, okay, I'm not going to shut down the agency. So this was in the news. I'm sure everybody has seen it. Let's pop up the article here. So this is the new one. He just came out. A judge said, "Hey, you can't give DOGE, who has essentially infiltrated Social Security." He even admits, "Hey, they're in charge of all the IT. They're in charge of the anti-fraud. They haven't found anything in fraud, so they're not doing a very good job there. Come up with a lot of allegations, but there's no receipts yet." And he says, hey, they pretty much run the agency. And if you don't let them do whatever they want, then I'm going to shut down the entire agency. So he made that threat yesterday. And then he came back and he said, oh, okay, well, never mind. I won't shut down the agency. So, yeah, they're essentially playing with our Social Security checks. Our Social Security checks seems to be bargaining chips. If you don't let me do exactly what I want with the future of Social Security, then I'm going to shut it down for everybody. So this is the person they have running the agency. So he is kind of a puppet, a stooge, a kind of a fall guy, I think. They just put him in there temporarily. He was kind of a mid-level staffer at Social Security, and then he was doing some inappropriate things, allegedly. He was looking for another job because he thought his time was limited at Social Security, which it probably was until until DOGE came in there and says, "Hey, you're going to be our patsy. You're going to do all the crazy things that we want to do, but we don't want to be held responsible for it. So you're going to be the fall guy, but not the 1970s. Was it great movie, The Fall Guy? Who was the guy there? The old guy that recently passed away. But anyway, all right. So let's get into Burt Reynolds. There we go. I know I was going to remember that name. All right. So, is your Social Security check safe? As of right now, yes. We will get our checks this month. You will get your checks next month. You will get your check the month after that. As of right now, you're going to get your checks as of right now. But considering the chaos, again, this is if you can find another time in Social Security history that something like this has happened, then well, I know you won't, because I've studied Social Security history, and I know for a fact that this has never happened. I mean, never happened in World War II or during the Korean War or the Vietnam War. This has never happened with Social Security. This type of chaos, and this is a long-term plan that was developed back in the 1980s to slowly diminish the agency, to choke it, to eventually, drown it in the bathtub, make it small enough to drown in the bathtub. And the final nail in the coffin is to create chaos. And wow, we are really there right now. So unfortunately, the people that are the most vulnerable to get their checks stopped, those are the people, unfortunately, going to suffer the most. And the Commerce Secretary, and I'm sure you've seen it on TV, he went on TV and he says, hey, good way to do it, we just shut everything down. And the people that cry the most, to complain the most, those are the fraudsters, those are the criminals. So all of you out there that can't take a cut, can't miss your payment because you need to pay your rent or your mortgage or your electricity, and if you don't get your check and you start complaining about it, then I guess you're one of those fraudsters, one of those criminals that he was talking about. So this is completely unsatisfactory. Those out there, there's some people that put their comments in my YouTube and say no, they're all good with everything that's happening, and so I'm not exactly sure where that comes from. And anyway, so as of right now, nothing is stopping. Everything is continuing in terms of monthly checks, but everything else is changing. So you're supposed to have Social Security employees. The contract with Social Security going back to 1935 is we give you FICA money and you put it into a safe place, a very, very safe place. You don't gamble it on Wall Street, anything like that. You put it on a very safe, boring place with obviously safe and boring, not much return on investment. We do get interest, very not great, but it's safe. And when we need help to get our money out, whether it be through disability or retirement benefits or our surviving spouse, or whoever the case may be. You are there to help us navigate the bureaucracy to make sure we get the right check at the right time. Well, guess what? Social Security has now broken that contract. The current administration has broken that contract because they are not providing people there in those offices to help you. They're firing, their reduction in force, voluntold to leave the agency. So a lot of people are leaving the agency and they're closing down offices. And people are not able to get the benefits they earned, they need, and what they're entitled to, because they paid into it and they're entitled to get it if they paid into it. So that's an issue, and there's new rules coming out in March 31st, and we need your help on all these. So to get the right check at the right time, the number one thing is to make sure you're getting, the right amount of check if you're just talking about retirement benefits or something, but also to get the right program. There's a lot of people, that's one of the reasons I started this channel, is because a lot of people are filing for the wrong benefits. They file for retirement benefits, but they should file for surviving spouse benefits. They file for disability, but they should file for retirement maybe at the same time. They forget about divorce spouse benefits. They forget about surviving spouse benefits. They forget a split strategy to get benefits on your own record and then switch to survivors later, or survivors first, and other benefits later. They sign up for Medicare when they don't need to sign up for Medicare. They get penalized. They have to pay extra for the Part B premium when they shouldn't. There's just so many variables. So that's why I do this live Q&A, which I'm going to be beginning here in a little bit. We'll get through the list of all of this, and then I'll open it up. It looks like we've already got tons of questions. So getting the right check, and then at the right time. Okay, so a lot of people are not getting the right check, but at least before they were kind of getting it at the right time. But now that's going to be very precarious, because if you call Social Security, I'm sure everybody knows that there's a several hour wait. And that was before all of this nightmare, because Social Security is at a 50-year low in terms of staffing. Again, that's the MO, that's the plan that they've had to, cut staffing, to make everybody hate the agency, to kind of slowly kill it. And so they're gutting it right now, but now it's, that on steroids. So when you call Social Security, you can't get an appointment for a month or 2 months or 3 months, even if you can get in. And so people are not getting the correct check at the right time. They're missing a month or 2 months or 3 months. So that's another reason we do this live Q&A, to make sure that's not you or your family or friends. All right. So there's a new rule, March 31st. This was a solution to a problem that didn't really exist. People coming in and pretending to be someone else and getting their benefits. That really didn't happen very often. I mean, not in the level that needs this type of super heavy hammer. So now basically, if you can go online, 100% go online, your earnings record is correct, you're able to get the access on there, your date of birth is correct. If you can do everything online, then you should be good. If not, you're going to have to go to the office. You're going to have to go to the office. And so if you start your application online and only can't finish it online, you're going to have to go to a local office. Whether or not it's open, that's, I guess they don't care about that. If you need to do it over the phone, take an application over the phone, that's fine. That's the start of an application, but you'll also have to go down to your local office and prove who you are. And that's the issue. And this is why we need your help, because there's a lot of people out there that just can't do that. They live far, far, far away from a Social Security office. They're disabled. They're elderly. I talked about this a little bit yesterday, and someone remarked, because the example I gave is, you've got this 90-year-old lady. Her husband just passed away, and now she's entitled to survivor benefits, and she needs to file for survivor benefits. So she has to go down to the local Social Security office. And this person says, "You make no sense. You don't know what you're talking about. If the person's already 90 years old, they're already receiving benefits." Yes, benefits on their own record, but now they're entitled to surviving spouse benefits because they weren't on the record of their deceased spouse. So they have to file a brand new claim for surviving spouse benefits. It's not automatic. And if they, 90-year-old, person possibly can't get online completely, or if they don't have internet access or whatever the case may be, then that 90-year-old lady is going to have to go down to the Social Security office if it even is open. And because all of the offices are so inundated, that person might not be able to go down there for a month or 2 months or 3 months, and they're going to be without those benefits for a month or 2 months or 3 months. And I know the Commerce Secretary, being a billionaire, he is going to help out his mother-in-law if she misses his check. But maybe you can write to him, and he'll float you mortgage for a few months until your Social Security check. So maybe that might be an option for you. So he's, or if you're complaining, I guess you're a criminal anyway. So this is where we need your help. If you know anybody in this situation that is disabled, that is elderly, that can't get 100% access to the computer and they can't get through there perfectly, they're going to need to go to a Social Security office. So please reach out to friends, relative, little old lady down the street, and say, "Hey, I'm sorry to hear about your husband passing away, your wife passing away. Um, do you need a ride? Can I take you down to the local Social Security office? Can we call up and we will set you up an appointment to see if we can go down there? We'll find out if it's even open anymore." So please reach out to those people and see what you can do. All right. And in the remarks of the video today, so if you need help anywhere, hopefully we've got an awesome community here that's always willing to help out. So if you live in East Texas somewhere and you say, "I have got no friends or family and I need X, Y, and Z," please put your that in remarks, and hopefully someone will pop up and lend a hand. And if you're going to go back and forth and talk to each other and try to lend a hand, it might be a good idea just for safety reasons, to kind of make a fake, email address, go into Gmail and, make East Texas, 34 or something like that, or and that way until you know that that person on the other side is an actual person. So just to keep safe. All right. And I also did a poll here where I asked people whether they trust AI to adjudicate, to process their retirement claim. And go figure, not that many people are interested in having AI. So this seems to be a movement. This is kind of what they're moving towards, is having AI decide your claim. And let's see here. Do you want artificial intelligence deciding how much your benefits are? And 90% said no. I did a video a few days ago where I took Elon Musk's artificial intelligence and I asked it some questions. And what is, Elon Musk's goal with Social Security? What is his motivation for doing what he's doing? And Elon Musk's artificial intelligence I think kind of dropped the dime on him a little bit, and said, he's not telling the truth and he has ulterior motives. And so I think Elon Musk is going to have a talk with his AI there and maybe fire the guy. So anyway, all right. And one more thing I want to talk about before we get into the live Q&A. A report came out. The Commissioner of Social Security, the previous Commissioner of Social Security, Martin O'Malley, he was in front of Congress and he was talking about the fact that Social Security was at a 50-year low in terms of staffing. And because of that, because people are having to wait way too long to get their disability claims decided, he says that 30,000 people died in 2023 while waiting for disability decisions. That is 100% completely unacceptable. And why is that? Is because Social Security just doesn't have the staff. They have been gutted and they've been begging Congress for an updated computer system. Congress refuses to provide Social Security the resources it needs. And because of that, this is the things that happen. And unfortunately, this is going to get a lot worse because, this was 50-year low. And now we've got 12, 15, 20% of the Social Security staff being, voluntold to leave the premises. And so we're probably at probably the lowest low since 1935 in terms of staffing. At the same time, we've got the baby boomers, 70 million Americans, born between 1946 and 1964. So If you know anybody on disability, please reach out to those people. If people are filing for disability, I did a series of, let me throw this up here. It's going to be in my face, but I did a series of videos on filing for disability, common mistakes, insider guide. So make sure you watch that and share with people filing for disability. And one of the things I want to impress upon people is, yes, it's difficult to get disability. It takes forever, unfortunately. Social Security defines disability as the inability to work, and based on a disability that lasts 12 months or longer. Too many people are repeating this internet myth about everybody's denied the first time. That is 100% incorrect. I'm sure there's a lot of people here that were approved the first time. I've taken hundreds of thousands of disability claims, and many were approved the first time. Some were approved the same day or the next day. So that is a myth we need to stop, because it hurts the people that really need to file for disability. And if they hear that, they just kind of give up. So let's not repeat that myth. So the process is, you file for a brand new claim. If you're denied, when I was taking claims, everybody at that time, we told people that it would be about 3 to 6 months to get your initial decision. A couple of weeks ago, staff at Social Security were telling people to take about 6 or 9 months to get your initial decision. That was 2 weeks ago. That was eons ago in Social Security terms, I guess, right now. Now, I'm not probably a year and a half to get your initial decision, because they're gutting the agency. So the people that can least afford it are going to pay: the elderly, the disabled. So the initial decision, if you're denied on the initial decision, then you file a reconsideration, and that takes same amount of time, if not more. And then if you're denied at the reconsideration, then you have to file an appeal with an administrative law judge. And that one also takes forever as well. So I'm sure there are people that are going to pop up here during the live Q&A. Some people say, yeah, it took me 3 to 6 months or 9 months to get mine approved. And the other one's like, hey, I've been waiting 3 or 4 years to get mine approved. So we need to reach out to those people that are filing for disability, that have just recently lost a loved one. If you're filing for retirement, if you're losing your Medicare, here's another big one: losing your health insurance. If you've been working and all of a sudden you lose your job, you quit or something like that, and you're after 65, and when you were 65, you refused Part B, which was the correct thing to do if you had health insurance from current work, yours or your spouse's, and your employer had 20 or more employees. But if you refuse Part B and now you're 66, 67, 70, or whatever the case may be, and you lose your job, you have to sign up for Part B to avoid those penalties. And the problem now is, it's going to take forever for them to process that, because there's nobody in the local office to process that. So if you know you're going to lose your health insurance, in a couple of 3 months, then you should be okay. But if it's any sooner than that, then you just might be without health insurance for a month or 2 months until they get around to you and process your claim. So, and then this Q&A is also sponsored by Chapter Medicare. So this is also, there's a few more days in March. This is the open enrollment period, January, February, March. You can switch Medicare Advantage plans. If you can check your Medicare Advantage plan, if you're not sure whether the plan you chose for this year, for the rest of the year, is the one you wanted, whether you're not missing any money, your doctors are covered, you reach out to Chapter. 100%, they can help you out and see if you're still in the best plan. And if you are, then it's a beautiful thing. And this is also the time you can switch from Medicare Advantage plans to a Medicare supplement plan. Return to original Medicare, get a Medicare supplement plan. If you probably have to go through health underwriting in most states, but now's the time to do it. You have until March 31st. After that, then if you're new to Medicare, if you move or something like that, then reach out to Chapter and they can help you out. So they are the ones that sponsor this live Q&A to help y'all with all things Social Security. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some of your questions. Let's see. I was receiving disability, and now I turned 62. So yeah, I get that question this past December. Do I get a change in payout? No. If you're on disability and you turn 60, 62 or anything, no, nothing changes. You continue to get disability. A lot of people think, well, now do I go on retirement? No, if you're still disabled, you're still unable to work, you don't do anything. You continue to get your benefits. If you want to get off disability and go to regular retirement, then you're going to get a 30% cut in your check if you want to do that. Nobody does that. But anyway, what will happen is you're on disability is once you hit your full retirement age, 66 and 8 months or 67, then your disability automatically switches to regular retirement benefits. Most people don't even know the switch, don't even recognize the switch. Your check stays the same, your direct deposit stays the same, but you no longer have to do those CDRs and you no longer are limited to how much you can work. So let's see here. I'm 58 on disability. Should I file for Social Security? Okay, so I just answered pretty much that one. So no, you just keep on keeping on. So there's a few times in disability I talk about this. When you're 60 years old, if you're on disability, check to see if you're entitled to any surviving spouse benefits. When you're 62, you should check to see if you're entitled to spouse benefits. So I guess that's one thing you definitely need to do. But you don't need to switch to retirement on your own record. But if you're entitled to spouse benefits at 62, you can get those on top of your disability. And then when you hit 65, check to see if you really want to stay in that Medicare Advantage plan or you want to switch to a Medicare supplement plan. Because they can't deny you at 65. And then, as I mentioned, once you hit 67, then you're no longer on disability. Dudek is over his head. Yes, that is 100% a fact. He was a mid-level guy. Nobody even knew his name. He supervised like I think 5 people, and because he was a willing. I don't want to, disparage the guy. But he was a willing puppet. They were like, okay, until the new commissioner comes in, we're going to make you do some crazy stuff. And this is clickbait. I spelled bait wrong, but not sure why it's clickbait. I'm just reporting the news. It took me a month and a half to get my appointment. Wow. So that's pretty good. So, wow, that's crazy. That's you're lucky. You have anything relevant to say? I mean, I do hear you say very relevant things, but not until you stir the pot. Okay. Pointing out the news and that this is not the way the agency should be run is stirring the pot. Okay. All right. New to Social Security disability, determined disabled in 2019, received retro pay for 2 years. Am I required to file amended taxes for those 2 years and report it? Okay, I don't do taxes. So let's see. How can there be fraud when it goes directly to your bank account? I call BS. Not sure what context is talking about there. Hoping we got a right start with the YouTube algorithm today. 1,500 people watching, only 318 upvotes. Yes, this is one of the ways we help out people is share, like, subscribe, and stuff like that. And that way it gets information out to more people. I wish Ed could be on my local news, but I am in a red propaganda state. I've done some news stuff. I just did interview with some journalists that are writing stories about Social Security. So I'm trying to get the information out there as much as possible. And yes, people always ask me, have you contacted DOGE and the president and Elon Musk? Yes, and yes. And they really don't want to hear from me, I guess. My spouse will turn 62 in April. If he needs to switch to regular Social Security as he is currently on SSD, when can he file for half of my Social Security, even if I am waiting until I turn 70 in 1.5 years? Okay, so he doesn't do anything right now. When you file for benefits, so you have to start receiving benefits for him to start receiving benefits on your record. So that is a consideration. So you're waiting till you're 70 years old because you want to get the full benefit amount. But take this into account that if you go ahead and file for benefits now, he's also going to get a check as well. So if you waiting 1.5 years is going to increase your benefits, $40 a month, but you're going to lose out in, $8,000 of checks for him, that might be a good idea to run those calculations and see whether you should just go ahead and pull the trigger now, start your benefits now so he can start receiving benefits on your record. So that's completely your decision. So I think The online prompts are the ways scammers been getting in that does not really verifying who they're dealing with. Um, been getting in that. So yeah, yeah. The online system that the Social Security came up with last year, a couple of years now, is pretty good. Yeah, it's difficult to get in there to get us to set up SSA.gov my Social Security account, and it's difficult for a good reason to prevent other people from pretending to be you. But in terms of you know, okay, if you want to have a phone appointment because you don't have, internet, you can't work the internet or whatever the case may be, so we can set up a phone appointment. I've done hundreds of thousands of phone appointments, and for retirement claims and disability claims and survivor benefits, there's so many questions that are asked. When you first, they ask you your name and your social security number and the number holder of your spouse, and the social security number of your spouse. They ask you where you're born, your mother's maiden name, where you worked, what your, all address, and there's so many things. So there are so few of those phone appointments that are, that the money goes to the wrong place. It's not really a problem. Does it happen sometimes? Yes, but it's not a big enough problem to warrant everybody now has to go down to the local social security office. There's other places. I pulled up the SSA OIG, the Office of Inspector General fraud report yesterday on my video, and that wasn't there. You know, people working and not reporting their earnings, that was there. People in terms of early retirement and disability benefits, people on SSI moving, getting some type of inheritance or some other money coming in, that was there. If you're going to focus on real fraud and, real issues that's costing Social Security money, you go there. You don't make it difficult for everybody else to file for benefits. That's just a block of yeah, that's just a complete block of your kind of benefits. Yeah. Ed, anti-Trump, anti-Musk, sending out the propaganda, making the whole podcast just bashing. No, no, I've said several times, if he wants to go in there and do what I just said, is go in there and focus on the real fraud. But when someone comes into an agency and says it's all a Ponzi scheme, it's the greatest fraud in history. There's 20 million people receiving Social Security benefits. It's just you come in there like that, and none of that has been found. They look on the DOGE website. They didn't find billions of dollars of dead people receiving benefits. So, but if you come into an agency with that type of mindset, I'm going to question your motives. Yeah, and I'm not sure why you don't. So is there places that he can help? Yes, I've mentioned that several times. What I just said, making it easier for the Social Security to update their system. Social Security has been begging for decades to do that if he's willing to do that. But it sounds like in terms of adding AI to adjudicate your claim, it doesn't look like y'all are fans of that. But as I said before, this could be a silver lining in the sense of maybe now they will update the system, but they're doing it, as we used to say in the Marine Corps, ass backwards. You make the system more efficient, and then if you don't need the people, you let the people go. Now they're letting the people go, and then they're saying, we'll fix it later. But for the next many months and months and months, when there's people there, when people can't get help and people are losing money and checks and not getting the right checks at the right time, then people are going to be hurt, and because it's being done all ass backwards. So I love negative comments, as you all can tell. That's how I pick out negative comments regularly. This is the old Marine Corps sergeant in me. I like to beat up on myself. Call Social Security on Thursday PM, waited 2 hours, then hung up, called back in the AM, and got right through. Changed my email. Then I was able to sign into the new section of their computer. All must sign into it. Okay, awesome. So some people are having a success. Good deal. DOGE doesn't care what a judge says. Yeah, it seems like kind of separation of powers is, kind of, anyway. Let me see if I'm going to get some actual questions about all things Social Security. Can you explain after EPE? I went over by $50 in September 24. I'm scared my benefits will stop. Okay. So EPE, that is the extended period of eligibility. So basically, so this person, Chipper H2O, um, is receiving disability benefits, and then the first stage, it's called the trial work period. You're allowed to work as much as you want in that first 9 months just to see if you're able to work. And after that, you get into a 36-month extended period of eligibility. And every month you go over the SGA, the substantial gainful activity, then that month just stops. So the SGA, substantial gainful activity, for 2025 is $1,620. So it looks like you went over it in September in 2024. So you owe the Social Security Administration that month. That's it. So don't worry about it. Make sure you reach out to Social Security and tell them, because they don't know yet. And unless you've told them, you've reported your wages. Once they get the information from the IRS on how much you made last year, and if it doesn't turn out to be in aggregate for the entire year over SGA, then they probably won't mess with you. But just to be on the safe side, I would reach out to Social Security and say, hey, I'm still working. I'm going to keep under the SGA, but I just want to let you know that in September 2024, I made $50 over, and they might, again, take that month back. So I finally got on to my Social Security and found the Medicare section no longer gives me so that question ended there. If you're having problem getting your Medicare card or something like that, if you're signing up for Part B, Chapter does have access to kind of a database through Medicare.gov, and they can go in there. And so if you've recently sent in your 564 and the 40B to sign up for, Part B of Medicare, after 65, and you're wondering whether it actually got there, you can reach out to Chapter, and they can check the system and see. And then, again, if you want to talk also about covering all the gaps of original Medicare, they can definitely help you out. So, why is SSA website not functioning? Yeah. Dr. Dean, what's up? Yeah, I don't know. It does go down for maintenance. I always try to be neutral. There was that story on the guy in Seattle, Ned, that had his check stopped because Social Security said he was dead, and people started blaming DOGE and Elon Musk and everything. No, there's a 0.1% chance that happened. 0.0 anyway. But yeah, that unfortunately happens sometimes. A coroner's office or a funeral home types in the wrong Social Security number, and someone else that's alive gets deceased. So I'm not blaming DOGE and thing. Social Security website, sometimes it goes down for maintenance, so that shouldn't be an issue. Sometimes if a lot of people go in there, it's overwhelmed. That happens. Not very often, but now, considering everybody's going in there to beat the March 31st deadline, that might be a reason. And Dr. Dean, if you recently filed an application, a retirement, a disability survivor claim, whatever the case may be, then the Social Security Administration, kind of the online website, prevents you from going into other things because you have a pending claim. And that's Social Security has been asking Congress for years, give us resources to update stuff like that and, make a better system, but Congress refuses to do that. So yeah, I would probably lean on the conservative side and say it's probably just one of those things. So I don't think there's a conspiracy in there. Oh, yes. Someone mentioned this yesterday. Dr. Dean says they are switching over to a new computer. That's why you have to sign into the new section. Oh, okay. Yes. And somebody mentioned also yesterday that if they went in there through like a Google Chrome and they couldn't get in there, that person went in there through Firefox and they were able to get in there. So download another system there, and they might be able to do it. So yes. And sounds like someone says they've saw somewhere that they're updating the system, which happens quite often. The problem is when DOGE came in there, the first people they fired are the computer people that have been keeping this old archaic system up, putting together with, bubblegum and string for decades. And, These new kids don't know the old system, so hopefully something bad doesn't happen, but we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're trying to stay positive. I didn't get approved for SSDI my first time out. It took me 2 years to get my SSDI, but that was in 2001. My doctor didn't understand why, since I had back surgery and couldn't work no more with chronic pain. Yeah, back. I know back issues. Fibromyalgia, back, mental issues. Those are difficult. Yes, unfortunately. But I'm glad you finally got your disability approved, and hopefully you got your back pay and everything. Remember, um, okay, so remember, once you're on disability, you get Medicare after 2 years. So you were probably surprised that you got your disability approved after 2 years and immediately you got your Medicare card. And you're, wait a second, I thought it'd be on 2 years. Well, because they gave you 2 years of back pay, they gave you your Medicare, immediately. So a lot of people don't miss. A lot of people miss that. So let's see. The Social Security Fairness Act. I worked for the post office for 8 years. I was fired after an injury. I'm on SSDI. Would I qualify for an increase? If your benefits have been wept, the windfall elimination provision, if they asked you about your post office pension and they've calculated that into your benefit amount, then you will be unwept and your benefit just might increase. So it really depends on whether you worked under a non-covered pension, whether you were under the old CSRS or you were under the new FERS because you were a federal employee. So what is the new rule? They have to go online and need to identify yourself. If you don't, that's the end of your checks. No, no, that is incorrect. A lot of people are misunderstanding that. So thank you for that question, Ruby. I should have mentioned that in the first part, that right now your checks are good. The new March 31st, those are for new claims. So if you're looking to file a new claim, retirement benefits, disability benefits, survivor benefits, spouse benefits, Medicare, then if you can't do that 100% online, then you will have to go down to local office and prove your identity. As of right now, I mean, there's no telling what DOGE would do. I don't think they would. I hope they don't do something that crazy where they said all 70 million Americans that are receiving benefits, y'all are fraudsters and criminals, and we believe you all are getting benefits incorrectly. So we need to recheck your IDs. So all 70 million Americans that are receiving Social Security benefits, make a beeline down to your local Social Security office so we can double check your ID. I doubt. I hope they don't do something that dumb. That would just destroy the system, and which is anyway. But no, Ruby, you're good. The only thing that, because you're currently receiving benefits, you're currently receiving your check. If you change your direct deposit, then if you can't do it online completely, then you will have to go down. But if you're not changing your direct deposit or something, then you're good. So. Let's see. I'm on SSI. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, someone else's. So yeah, SSI, that's one thing that's going to be interesting because that is a welfare-based program, SSI, Supplemental Security Income. And during the previous Trump administration, disability benefits, including, SSDI, SSI, those were a target for cuts and scrutiny. And I think it's going to be even more so. Increased CDRs, increased RZs, there's redeterminations for people on SSI, and people on SSI know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah. Ed, is there an option when signing up to SSA that you stop taxes being taken out? I searched but could not find anything. I tried calling but got cut off at 4 p.m. when they closed. Stop taxes from being taken out. Well, taxes are not taken out of your Social Security check. You might pay taxes on it later with the IRS, but in terms of Social Security taking taxes directly out of your Social Security check, they don't do it unless you tell them to do it. And it's a W-4V, a voluntary withholding. They changed it a few months ago where you didn't have to print off the little slip that you can pick, 7%, 15%, 22% withholding. Now you can actually do it over the phone. Well, you could a few weeks ago, but anyway, but yeah, if you chose to have taxes taken out of your Social Security check and now you want to stop it, then yes, you're going to have to call them up and tell them to stop it. But if you didn't, then you won't. Let's roll. DOD can't even pass an audit, but hey, let's start with IGS. That's why Musk Trumper. Okay. Yeah, the Social Security has always passed their audits with flying colors. We used to get dinged on our office. Sometimes the independent agency, that would come in. They'd go into a bunch of different offices, and mine was the third business in the country, so they always came into ours. And they used to ding us on the little things. And so one of the employees was reading the attestation. I certify under penalty of perjury that all the information I say is, and they read it to the husband, and then the wife needs to take the application too, and they forget to read it a second time, even though they both said yes. And so you should have read it the second time. So we used to get dinged on little things like that. But in terms of benefits going out, Social Security has always done a phenomenal job. They've always passed their audits. So the DOD, being an old Marine Corps sergeant, I know there's a lot of wasted money there. But anyway. Okay, here's a negative question. Stop spewing lies, please. Sue a divider. Okay, if you any specific lies that you want me to stop spewing, please type it in there, and let's have a discussion. If I lose access to ID me and can't fix online, do I go to Social Security office? That's a question that we don't know yet. If you can't do things online, is that going to be considered a new application? If you can't do it online, if you can't fix it through ID me, then it sounds like you're going to have to go down to your local office, because before you could call up but now that's part of the whole ID process. So I'm thinking you're going to have to go down to a local office. That's something that they haven't decided. So, but I would call Social Security first. Call the 800 number. Probably not your local office. Probably nobody there. But anyway, call the 800 number. They might have more experience resetting your password and everything. But if the new policy is that on that you have to go down to a local office and show your ID, then unfortunately, yeah. Diane, as to my having been denied wrongly 2 times, I worked my whole life, college grad, career woman, so I was insulted that after being denied 2 times for SSDI, finally received after hiring law firm. No fraud. Yeah, so they missed it the first 2 times, and the administrative law judge finally, because the administrative law judge has a little bit more latitude, they can read in between the lines a little bit. And so, that's unfortunate that you were denied 2 times. Yeah. Some people use an attorney from the get-go. I myself, because the attorney will basically ask the same question as long as you fill out the application correctly and everything, and watch my videos, and I teach you all how to do that. But little tips, tricks, and secrets. But that's unfortunate. Hello, Dr. Ed. I'm 65 and I'm receiving Social Security since I turned 62. Do I need to take any action online? No, you should be receiving your Medicare card in the mail here pretty soon. If, about 100 days before you turn 65, if you haven't already, that's about the only thing you have to do at 65 is, you get your Medicare and then figure out how you're going to cover all the gaps, because there's a lot of gaps in Medicare. The big one is Part B, the co-insurance. So if you get a $100,000 Band-Aid, you have to pay $20,000 of it. So that's why people either get a Medicare supplement plan, which is the ones I always recommend looking at first, a Medicare supplement plan N or a G, and then Chapter can help you out and tell you what the differences are. And then if that's not for you, usually it's a budget issue, then you start looking at Medicare Advantage plans, what's available in your area. Let me see. DeHaven, will my first CDR disability review scheduled for 2027 still be done on time? Devin, don't. DeHaven, I'm sorry. DeHaven, don't. My philosophy on CDRs, continuing disability reviews, is forget about it, complete it when you get it, and then forget about it again. They're 100% budget driven. Even if you're scheduled for 2027, if your local office doesn't have the budget to do that CDR, they won't do it. So don't sweat it. If you're on disability, you've got more important issues to focus on, your health and all the rest of it. So focus on that. Don't worry about the bureaucracy. If you get it, if you get the package in the mail, then complete it at that time. I've got a bunch of videos on CDRs and stuff, but go on with your life. Go on with your life. So. Wife eligible March, 66 and 8 months, applied January, no confirmation yet, has been in process since January 21st. Will she get check in April? I certainly hope so. Yeah. So because she's eligible March, she'll get her March check in April. And even if something happens and they don't process it until, May, June, July, if she put that she wants her check to start in March, then she will get a check in April, whether it's, in April or whether she gets 2 checks in May or 3 checks in June. Yeah. And hopefully that's the situation. Well, hopefully you're able to float that money. And you're saying, oh, okay, as long as she gets her money, then that's fine. If it's a month late or 2 months or 3 months late, then that's fine. Hopefully you have that luxury. The problem is there's a lot of people that don't have that luxury. They can't, if their spouse passes away and they need that extra benefit because of the surviving spouse benefit, because they just lost their husband or their wife and they're entitled to more money. They can't wait a month or 2 months or 3 months. They have to pay their rent. They have to pay their mortgage. They have to pay their electricity, buy food. So those are the people we need to reach out to and make sure it says, hey, you recently found a spouse, Social Security is going to take forever to give you your surviving spouse benefits. In the meantime, what can we do to help? Please, please, please reach out to those people. Monica, they are not only ones killing off their customers, amazing ever since they become for-profit. Okay, we're not sure who we're talking about. I just push the button at random and see what comes. So no rhyme or reason. This is a one-man show. Well, two-man. My son helps out behind the scenes. But thank you for answering my question that I've been wanting to know concerning my retirement. 70 years old this year. Oh, okay. You're welcome. You're welcome. Ed, I was born in 1960. What year can I retire? You are 62 now, so at least 62. So for 1960 and after, your full retirement age is 67. And people ask me that when should I start my benefit? Should I start it at 62 or 65 or 67, 70? It's 100% your decision. Nobody can tell you when to start. If you need money, start it. If you're not working, you're limited to the amount of money you can make when you start early retirement, but it really depends on whether you're working, whether you need the money. Is your spouse waiting or your children waiting for benefits for you to start your benefits so they can start yours? How healthy are you? All the rest of it. So I can't find or replace my Polish birth certificate. Is my citizenship certificate valid for Social Security? Usually not, because immigration really doesn't care about your date of birth. They just care about your citizenship, right? So Social Security has found that, because they really don't focus on your date of birth, which is most important for Social Security, certificate and authorization really doesn't help. If you have tried to get your Polish birth certificate and you have proof that you've actually tried and failed, but Polish birth certificates are pretty easy to get. I've had people get them, but in your particular case, it just might be an issue. But if you have proof that you're not able to get it, then you can use a preponderance of the evidence. So you can use your certificate of naturalization and your driver's license and an old green card and an old life insurance policy with your date of birth, everything with your date of birth on it. Anything you can get with your date of birth on it, old school records or something like that. So they can go by a preponderance of evidence to prove your date of birth. And if it's in Polish, don't translate it. If you translate it, you're just wasting time. You have to give the originals to Social Security, and then Social Security has Polish translators to translate every language to translate. So it's not a big deal. I used to do all the translations for Japanese because I speak Japanese. So I did all the Japanese translations. So I went into Social Security yesterday and was told that I cannot get spousal benefits. I can claim just one source of funds. A month ago, I phoned and was told when I began Social Security, I was getting spousal benefits. All right. So Kathleen, what's up? So it really depends on the situation. So if you're 62 years old, you file for benefits on your own record. I assume we're talking about your current spouse, not a divorced spouse or a deceased spouse. Okay, let's think you're talking about a current spouse. So you file for benefits on your own record, and then you can file for benefits on your current spouse's record, but your current spouse has to be receiving benefits. If you're divorced, they don't have to be receiving benefits. That's called independently entitled divorced spouse. But because you're currently married, he has to start receiving benefits. So if he's receiving benefits, you file for benefits on your own record, and your benefit amount, your full benefit amount is less than half of his, then you can get the difference. So you can file for the spouse benefit. So possibly maybe one of those, you didn't jump over that hurdle. He's not receiving benefits, or your benefit amount is not less than half of his. So that might be the case. So as a government worker, we now have the option not to pay towards FICA and Social Security. How will it affect Social Security fund if we stop paying into those funds? As a government worker, we now, okay, so you are you're not a federal government worker, you're one of the state, local, you're a teacher, firefighter, police officer, or something that works for a state, local, or a city government, that one of the 3% that do not pay into Social Security. So if you are no longer paying into Social Security, then your benefits are not going to increase because of what you pay into it. But you are going to get an extra percentage that the rest of us don't get because of the Social Security Fairness Act, which I think is completely unfair, that you're going to get a higher percentage than equal workers to you. So, and typical politicians, they call things, Social Security Fairness Act when it's actually not fair. Anytime there's a act that says X, you can pretty much guarantee that's not what it means. It's completely opposite. So how do I get Medicare to cross over my summary of benefits to my secondary provider to prevent providers from charging me the balance not covered by Medicare? Wow, good question. That's one of the reasons I have Chapters, my sponsors. They have a customer member success team that they call it, that helps with stuff like that. So if you're a customer if Chapter helped you out, please call them, and they will look at your billing and see what's going on with your billing, see who's the first payer and the second payer. If you get a bill that you're not supposed to be getting, they walk you through the whole process. But yeah, those first payer, second payer type things, usually it's just you go in for some procedure, and then the insurance company bills the other company, another insurance company, or Medicare, or whatever the case may be, and that doesn't get a response back. So they send a letter to you and says, hey, this other company didn't pay, and so we want you to pay. And it's just a matter of them figuring things out. But in the meantime, you are, stuck in the middle. Yeah, the whole thing is crazy. I was able to get into my Social Security account and then went back in to get my records. Do I need to go in person? No, if you're able to get into your Social Security account, and then went back in to get my records. Not sure. Oh, okay. So Marcy might be what I recommended was, if you're able to get in your Social Security account, download everything. Download your earnings record, how much your benefit amount is, how much your projected benefit amount is, everything from Social Security, my Social Security. Download it, paper copy, please. Because of whatever they're going to do with the computer system, if something happens and they push a wrong button, then there might be records that are deleted. And so if you have a paper copy and people say, well, that won't happen. Well, let me tell you about in Japan, a few years ago, they updated the computer system, transferred all of the Social Security records to a new system, and they lost 50 million records. It took them 10 years to recreate everything. It was a nightmare. The prime minister lost his job and everything. So it can and does happen, unfortunately. Okay, I already answered that one. Yesterday, went into Social Security office to check what happened to the enrolled done on February 2025 to be effective May 2025. She found an error after Social Security complete that enrolled, and we need to wait for 3 months. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's if effective May. Okay, so hopefully it's still effective May. I'm not sure what type of benefit you're talking about, Medicare, retirement benefits, or whatever the case may be. So, if you're like, no, that's completely unsatisfactory, we can't wait till June, we want it to start in May, then, the people that are in charge of your Social Security office are your local politicians, your senators, your 2 senators, your congressperson. Contact them and say, hey, why is the customer service at our local office, the Social Security office right down the street from your office, why don't they pick up the phone? Why don't they have staff to help out? Why? It's ultimately their responsibility. Social Security can only work with the resources their bosses give them. And who are their bosses? Politicians. And who are politicians' bosses? Us. Or actually, it's Wall Street, but I won't go there. How long before we know if we might get a letter for overpay? I get ex-spouse benefits. I'm so scared. It's the only income coming in. I'm a nervous wreck, wondering when I can breathe and relax. A letter of overpayment. So if you worked, or for you think you're going to get overpaid for whatever reason, I'm not sure why you think you're going to get. You received an overpayment. Working early. Working during early retirement or whatever the case may be, you got remarried or not sure why. But if you're a nervous wreck, then, pull the Band-Aid off yourself. Call Social Security and say, hey, I got overpaid for whatever reason, and I want to go ahead and set up a payment plan. So now they can switch you to a 60-month payment plan, and there's no, as of right now, there is no interest on it, so you don't have to pay interest on it. So it's good to get it as long as possible. So yeah, if you're a nervous wreck about waiting on it, just pull the Band-Aid off and call Social Security yourself. Yeah, so. All right, someone's coming to my defense there, and yeah, you guys are awesome. How will overseas recipients be affected? Do we have to go to the embassy? Oh, that is a good question. If you are filing for new benefits, then probably yes. There are federal benefits units, which are actually Social Security employees, and they're stationed in different places throughout the world, London and Manila and different places. And those are actually Social Security employees that know Social Security. But in all other countries and areas throughout the world, you go to the consulate or the embassy if you want to file a brand new claim. If you are not filing a brand new claim, then you don't need to go anywhere. But the whole thing about all those expats living overseas, I hate to talk about this because that might give DOGE an idea. They might just say that, well, if you're not living in this country, even if you're a U.S. citizen, then we don't want you, and therefore we're going to stop your benefits. So hopefully they don't do anything stupid like that, because hey, if you're a citizen, you can live anywhere you want. But remember, you do have the yearly proof of life form that you have to complete, and if you don't, then they will stop your benefits. So. Question. I was able to get into my account and then went, okay, I already answered that one. Ed, I asked that question. Yes, I did while I was still working, but don't need them to take it out now. Oh, okay. So, all right. So you were still working, you're receiving benefits. So you made over the $23,400. So if you don't want them to start taking it out now, then they will, if your work was this year, then you won't get that overpayment nasty letter in the mail until, well, if your work was last year, then you should be getting that letter here pretty soon. So if you're talking about work you did in 2024, then once you file your taxes and the IRS notifies Social Security how much you made, and then if they determine you made over the limit for last year, then they will send you that letter at that time. So just wait for that letter. But if your work is this year, then it won't happen until next year. So, all right, how are we looking for time here? We've got another minute or so. Here's a Butch. My brother is basically homeless. I got him signed up about a month ago, got him a Social Security card. It will be basically impossible for people who are homeless to cut off first. Yeah, and those are unfortunately the disabled, homeless, elderly that can't make it to a Social Security office, that can't. It's the vulnerable. Reach out to the Commerce Secretary, I guess, and see if he'll. Yeah, sorry for the dark humor there, but at least Butch, you're there for him. So we appreciate you taking care of your brother there. I'm sure it's a tough situation that you went down there and helped him out. But contact your local politician and say, hey, my brother's homeless and we need to get into the local office for X, Y, and Z to get this done. So hopefully they can help you out. Anytime if you're filing for disability or something like that, Social Security has always expedited those. If it's called terminal illness, or if you're homeless or wounded warrior and stuff, there's different categories to where Social Security has always historically expedited those claims. But even today, but because today, even an expedited anything today still takes way, way too long because there's nobody there at the office to help out. So, all right. So I guess I apologize. I got tons of questions, but we're an hour here. But we all need to be like Butch and look out for other people. Look out for your other relatives, distant relatives, a little old lady down the street, the local waitress, and make sure people are doing the right thing. And if they're going to do something, they need to do it sooner rather than later so they get the right check at the right time. All right. Y'all take care. Please take care of each other. And we'll see y'all tomorrow.